Señoras y señores, tengan ustedes muy buenos días. Nos encontramos transmitiendo desde la ciudad de Tegucigalpa, Honduras, sede del Banco Centroamericano de Integración Económica, inaugurando la 61ª reunión ordinaria de la Asamblea de Gobernadores del BCE, la que por segundo año consecutivo se desarrolla de forma virtual. Nos acompañan en la mesa principal el excelentísimo señor presidente de la República de Honduras, don Juan Orlando Hernández, el señor presidente de la Asamblea de Gobernadores del BCE, don Luis Mata Echeverry, secretario de Estado en el Despacho de Finanzas y gobernador titular por la República de Honduras, el señor presidente ejecutivo del BCE, don Dante Ariel Mossi, el señor vicepresidente ejecutivo del BCE, don Jaime Roberto Díaz, y el señor secretario de la Asamblea de Gobernadores del BCE, don Héctor Javier Guzmán. Asimismo, están presentes el señor gobernador de la República de El Salvador,
José Alejandro Zelaya Villalobos, and the Governor of the Republic of Nicaragua, Mr. Iván Acosta, as well as directors and officers of the bank. Likewise, we greet the governors and their delegations linked from Guatemala, Costa Rica, Mexico, Republic of China, Taiwan, Argentina, Colombia, Spain, Panama, Dominican Republic, Belize, Cuba, and Republic of Korea. To begin this meeting, the bank's secretary and the Board of Governors, Mr. Héctor Javier Guzmán, will verify the quorum.
Señor presidente de la República,
Good morning, Mr. President of the Republic, governors,
señores directores, señor presidente,
directors,
vicepresidente,
president, vice president,
señores funcionarios.
officers.
Me permito comprobar el quórum, comenzando
will verify quorum,
por
beginning
Guatemala,
by
y
Guatemala,
saludamos hasta allá
and we greet
al señor ministro de
the
Finanzas
Minister of Finance,
Públicas, don Álvaro González Rixi, que nos
Mr. Álvaro
acompaña.
González
Señor
Rixi.
ministro, buenos días.
Minister, good morning.
Señor presidente, delegados,
Okay, gracias, señor ministro, por
Thank you,
conformidad de su
Minister,
participación.
for your participation.
Por la República del Salvador
For
está
the
aquí
Republic
presente
of El
en este
Salvador,
salón
we have with us
el señor José Alejandro
Mr.
Zelaya
José Alejandro Zelaya
ministro de Hacienda y
Villalobos,
gobernador
the
titular
Minister of
ante el BCE.
Finance
Buen día,
and
señor
Head
gobernador.
Director for CABEI. Good
Por
morning,
Honduras,
Mr. Governor. For
contamos
Honduras, we
presencia
have with
con
us
don Luis
today
Fernando Mata
Mr.
Echeverry,
Luis Fernando
secretario de Estado
Mata
en el
Echeverry,
Despacho de
Head of
Finanzas
State
y
in the
gobernador
Office
titular y
of Finance
presidente
and
de la
Head
Asamblea de Gobernadores
Governor
del
and
BCE.
President and Chair of
Señor
the
ministro,
Board of
igual nos
Governors of
acompaña en
CABEI.
este
Good
salón
morning. Also with us,
el señor
here
gobernador
present,
por
the
Nicaragua,
Governor
don
for
Iván
Nicaragua,
Acosta
Mr. Iván
Montalbán,
Acosta
ministro de Hacienda y
Montalbán,
Crédito Público,
Minister of
gobernador
Finance
titular.
and Public Credit,
Bienvenido, don
Head
Iván.
Director. Welcome, Don Iván.
Por Costa Rica
For Costa
nos
Rica,
acompaña
we have
don
with
Elian
us
Villegas
Mr. Elian
Valverde,
Villegas
ministro de
Valverde,
Hacienda y gobernador
Minister of
titular.
Finance and Head
Buen día, don
Governor.
Elian.
Good morning,
Saludarlo.
Mr. Elian. A pleasure to greet you.
Gracias.
Thank
por
you.
México
For
contamos con la
Mexico, we have
participación
the
de doña
participation
Brenda Guadalupe Siuk,
of Ms. Brenda
gobernadora
Guadalupe
temporal
Siu,
por México.
temporary
Buen día,
governor
señora
for
gobernadora.
Mexico. Good morning, Madam Governor.
Gracias. Saludamos hasta la República
We
de
greet
China,
to,
Taiwán,
in the Republic of China,
al
Taiwan,
señor Yang Rong
Mr.
Su,
Jan
ministro
Romsu,
de Finanzas y
Minister
gobernador
of Finance
titular
and
ante
Head
el BCE.
Governor,
También
Kabay,
al señor Nam
and
Quang
Mr.
Chen,
Nam Quan Chen,
vicegobernador del
Vice
Banco
Governor
Central de
of
la
the
República de
Central
China,
Bank
Taiwán,
of the
y
Republic of China,
gobernador
Taiwan,
suplente
and
del
alternate
BCE.
governor
Good
of
evening,
Kabay.
Mr. Su.
Good evening,
Mr. Shen.
Mr. Su, Mr. Shen.
Thank you.
Sir.
Hasta Argentina
Thank you,
saludamos a don Leandro Gorgal,
In Argentina,
gobernador
we greet Don
suplente
Leandro
actuando como
Gorbal,
titular
Governor,
por
alternate
Argentina ante el BCE.
Governor for
Buen día, señor
Argentina
gobernador.
by Kabay. Good morning, sir.
Buenos días a todos y a todas.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Por Colombia nos
For
acompaña
Colombia,
doña Gabriela
we
Cohen,
have Ms.
gobernadora
Gabriela
temporal
Cohen,
por ese
temporary
país. Buen día,
governor
señora gobernadora.
for that country. Good morning, Madam Governor.
Buenos días, señor secretario.
Bienvenida.
Welcome.
Hasta España Saludamos a don
In
Leonardo
Spain, we
Rodríguez
greet Mr.
García,
Leonardo Rodríguez
gobernador temporal
Garcia,
por
the
ese
temporary
país ante el
governor
BCE.
for
Buenas
this
tardes,
country
señor
before
gobernador.
Quebec. Good afternoon.
Buenas tardes desde
Por Panamá nos
In-
acompaña don
For
Héctor
Panama,
Alexander,
we have Mr.
ministro de
Héctor
Economía
Alexander,
y
Minister
Finanzas y gobernador
of
titular
Economy
ante
and
el
Finance
BCE.
and Head
Buen
Governor
día,
for
señor gobernador.
Quebec. Good morning, Governor.
Gracias. Por la República Dominicana
For
nos
Dominican
acompaña doña María
Republic,
José
we have
Martínez,
Miss María José
gobernadora
Martínez,
temporal por ese
temporary
país. Buen
governor
día,
for
señora
this
gobernadora.
country. Good morning, Governor. Madam Governor.
Buenos días, buenos días, buenos días.
Por Belice
For Belize,
nos acompaña don Christopher Coy,
we have Mr. Christopher
ministro de
Coyle,
Estado del Ministerio de
Minister
Finanzas,
of the
Desarrollo
Ministry of
Económico e
Finance,
Inversión,
Economic
gobernador
Development
ante
and
el BCE.
Investor Governor
Buenos días,
for
señor
Quebec.
gobernador.
Good morning, Governor.
Por Cuba,
For Cuba,
tenemos la
we
grata
have
participación de doña
the
Marta Sabina
participation of
Wilson,
Miss Marta Sabina
ministra
Wilson,
presidente del
Minister,
Banco Central de Cuba y
President of the
gobernadora
Central Bank of
titular
Cuba and Head
ante el BCE.
Governor by Quebec.
Buen día, señora
Good
gobernadora.
morning, Madam Governor.
Buenos días a todos.
Gracias. Y
Thank
a esta
you.
Corea saludamos
And in
al
Korea,
señor
we greet
Jung-gur Young,
Mr. Jung
gobernador
Governor,
temporal por ese
temporary
país
governor
ante el BCE.
of this country by
Good
Quebec.
evening,
Good
Mr. Young.
evening, Mr. Young.
Es así, señor presidente
Therefore,
de la
Mr.
Asamblea, señores
President
gobernadores, que
of the
les informo que tenemos
Board of
quórum
Governors
completo para
and
dar inicio a
Governors,
esta reunión.
I
Muchas
inform
gracias.
we have full quorum to begin our meeting. Now, we have a trailer of a documentary on Quebec on the biosphere of the Plátano River, a project that arose after the publishing of the book in the commemoration of the 60th anniversary of Quebec, called Mesoamerica, a typical trip. There you can see the majestic biodiversity of our region.
La biosfera es el segundo
biosphere
pulmón de
It's
América
the
Latina.
second of Latin
Así
America.
como vamos, le quedan unos 10 años de vida.
Things are going, it has about 10 years of life left.
Decidí estudiar biología porque dije
I
yo,
decided to
los
study
animales no
archaeology
tienen
because
voz,
I thought
las
animals
plantas,
have
el
no voice.
bosque, la
The
laguna, los
plants,
ríos
the
no tienen voz.
forest, the lagoon, the
Entonces, como
rivers have no
mezquita, quiero
voice.
ser la voz
So
de ellos.
as a mosquito, I would like to be
Yang
their
Nini,
voice. Yang
Wilderness
Nuni,
Wood, Yang Pas bióloga
I am
miskita,
the first
Nara,
mosquito
Narsa,
biologist.
Yang Sika Bruce
I was
Lagunwina,
born and
Nara
raised in Bruce
Pauri,
Laguna,
Mamik Nanaikut Family Kinanaiku, Reserva
which
del
is a
Hombre y
culture
Biosfera del Río
of
Platanora.
the reserve of Hombre and biosphere of Rio Plátano. Now we have a video that shows all the activities the bank developed
Nos
in
une la misma actitud
2020
ante la adversidad,
with
actitud
our
que nos motivó a
attitude
reaccionar
before
de
diversity,
inmediato y
which
sin
led us to
titubear
react
ante la
immediately
crisis
and without
causada por
thinking
una terrible
due to
pandemia
the crisis
que
caused
puso
by
a
a
prueba
terrible
nuestra fortaleza.
pandemic that tested our
BCIE
strength.
estuvo allí desde
Quebec
siempre,
was there
apoyando a
always,
todos nuestros socios
supporting
en
all
los
our
momentos
members
más
in the
difíciles y
most difficult
desafiantes.
time.
Fuimos los primeros en convocar a los gobiernos y brindarles soluciones inmediatas a través de la creación de un programa de emergencia que apoyó y preparó a los países de la región centroamericana para hacer frente a la pandemia. Miles de pruebas de COVID-19, insumos, reactivos y equipos fueron puestos a disposición de los más vulnerables en la lucha contra el virus. Posteriormente, La facilidad de crédito otorgada por el banco fue de vital importancia para la adquisición y aplicación de vacunas. Así de urgente y necesario fue también el financiamiento de las operaciones del sector público en la región, que evitó la desaceleración total de los países. La intervención decisiva del BCIE, al crear un programa de políticas de desarrollo y otros programas de apoyo para fortalecer la salud y las economías, produjeron la asistencia oportuna y efectiva ante la emergencia y sembraron una nueva semilla de bienestar para la región. Nos une el mismo valor para enfrentar los efectos devastadores de desastres naturales que ponen en riesgo la integridad y el bienestar de nuestros ciudadanos. Pueblos hermanos fueron embestidos por la furia de los huracanes ETA y IOTA en Honduras y Nicaragua en noviembre de 2020. Alrededor de 4 millones de personas fueron afectadas y las pérdidas económicas llegaron casi a 3.000 millones de dólares. Nuestra respuesta: BCIE creó el Programa Centroamericano de Reconstrucción Resiliente y proveyó los recursos para el financiamiento de proyectos que mitigarán y prevendrán los efectos de los desastres naturales a corto, mediano y largo plazo. Asimismo, contempló la emisión de bonos verdes y sociales, que atrajeron a inversionistas y canalizaron más recursos para proyectos de impacto. La iniciativa impulsó la recuperación de la infraestructura vial y social, construcción de nuevas obras, proyectos de agricultura resiliente, participación privada para restaurar represas, edificación de viviendas resilientes, inversiones ambientales de las MIPYMES y otras acciones de alto beneficio para la restauración de los países afectados. Nos une el mismo empeño para levantarnos, tomar nuevas fuerzas y reactivar ese espíritu de lucha que nos distingue como una sola nación centroamericana, con una misma identidad, repartida en múltiples voluntades. Para producir la reactivación económica de nuestros países, hicimos lo que teníamos que hacer: facilitar los recursos financieros que fueran necesarios para fortalecer a los pequeños, medianos y grandes empresarios, en su esperanza de prevalecer, mantenerse en pie, continuar produciendo la riqueza y prosperidad de cada nación, con esfuerzo, valentía y con la frente en alto. El BCIE se ha mantenido fiel a esta convicción y se ha fortalecido en su posición, la multilateral de desarrollo que otorga la mayor cantidad de recursos a la región. Nos une nuestra fidelidad y convicción para acompañar el crecimiento económico y el bienestar social de nuestros socios fundadores, regionales no fundadores y extrarregionales. Nos une un mismo espíritu, una misma fortaleza, una misma oportunidad. Banco Centroamericano de Integración Económica nos une.
And of course, improving the well-being and quality of life of the inhabitants. In addition, many there have been and also in the regional and international environment. Now we have the message of the executive president of COBEI, Mr. Dante Mossi.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. Good morning, President of the Republic. It's an honor to have you here, Mr. Orlando, Mr. Luis Mata, Minister of Finance and President of the Assembly, Governor, members, representatives of COBEI, members of the participant delegations, ladies and gentlemen, officers of COBEI, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure today to welcome you to the 61st Ordinary Meeting of the Board of Governors of Cabay,
la ciudad de
in the
Tegucigalpa,
city of
en este mes
Tegucigalpa,
patrio en el
in
cual
this
conmemoramos los 5 países
month where we
fundadores por
commemorate
los 500
our
aniversarios.
200th
Quiero
anniversary
agradecer especialmente al presidente de la República de
of the
Honduras
5
por
countries of
hacer
Central
parte
America. I
de
would
su
like
tiempo
to
para
thank the president of
acompañarnos en este
Honduras for
importante
making time
evento.
to accompany
Al
us
gobernador
in
y
this important
directores
event.
que
Governors,
pese a la
directors,
pandemia
that
han hecho el
despite the
esfuerzo por
pandemic have made an
acompañarnos
effort to
y hacer este
accompany
evento
us
mucho
and
más
to make of this
relevante.
event
Es
a
momento
relevant
de
one.
tomar nota
Eh,
sobre lo que ha pasado en
Now
el
to take
2020,
note on what has
un año
happened
de
in
pandemia y desastre
2020,
natural.
a year of
Un año en
pandemic
que
and
el BES
natural
fortaleció,
disaster. This was a year
consolidó
where
su
Quebec
posición como
consolidated
posición
and
más
strengthened
importante de la
its
región.
position as the
No
strategic arm
solamente
in the
tuvimos
region.
una pérdida
Not
significativa de
only
vidas
had we
preciosas,
significant losses
sino que
of
también nos obliga a
lives,
reflexionar
but
sobre qué
it
queremos
has led
para
us to reflect of what we want for
Primero,
the
quiero
future.
compartir
First
algunas
of all, I would like
pequeñas
to share some small reflections
reflexiones del año 2020.
about on
Logramos
2020.
implementar al
We were
inicio con
able to
mucha
implement at
entusiasmo
the beginning
una
with
estrategia
great
quinquenal
enthusiasm
2020-2024
our 5-year
con
strategy
una disponibilidad histórica
2020-2024
de
with a historic
15.000
availability
millones de
of
dólares para
$15
nuestra
billion
región y
for
para
our
nuestros países
region
miembros
and
en
our
inversión.
member countries in
Esta
investment.
estrategia incluye
This
proyectos de
strategy
muy modernos
includes very
hospitales,
modern hospital
carreteras,
projects,
ferrocarriles,
roads,
puertos,
railroads,
aeropuertos,
airports,
gasoductos,
ports,
plantas de gas
gas
natural, movilidad
pipes,
eléctrica, escuelas,
electromobility, schools, water supply, among other topics. In March 2020, with the arrival of the pandemic, everything changed. The lockdowns and confinement of the economies took everyone by surprise, and very important decisions had to be made. I'd like to highlight 2 of them. An emergency meeting with the SICA presidents. They instructed the 2 important topics for Quebec. The first one, not to close the borders to regional trade. Central America is the second most important client of Central America. And second, Quebec was instructed to act in an expeditious and swift manner. This in a working modality. Quebec responded to this request made at the highest level of the mandataries in the SICA region to approve the emergency program and economic reactivation, for which emergency resources were mobilized to support the emergency of all the member countries that were suffering due to the pandemic. In addition, we took the hand of Korea, our most recent member, to have access to medical supplies that were so urgent and scarce in March in 2020, and we were able to obtain test inputs for COVID-19. And I take advantage, Mr. President, to thank the generosity of the people of Honduras to allowing us to use the facilities to distribute these kits to all the countries. Thank you very much for your support. Thank you, Korea. Thank you, Honduras, for acting in such an agile manner in the midst of the pandemic. These interventions were very timely for the countries. They brought the hope, and it was necessary to act. And Quebec did not doubt to take actions despite that all employees were working from home. In this crisis, we developed an emergency plan that included development policies, a support line for micro, small, and medium-sized enterprise, and the extension of the line of credit for central banks, among many others. Of course, this program also received the compelling support of Quebec and Central Americans' friends. And I'd like to especially highlight the assistance received by the Republic of Korea, the Republic of China, Taiwan, the Kingdom of Spain, the first historical collaboration of the United States directly to Quebec, the decisive support of Germany, the European Union, and organizations that one never imagines. UN Women, all these supported the management of this emergency program. If we thought that 2020 was going to be a year only of the pandemic caused by COVID-19, in November demonstrated that we were totally wrong. Hurricanes Eta and Iota reminding us about that climate change is real, despite Central America is not issuer of greenhouse gases, we suffer the consequence year after year. This made us redoubling our effort to be much more emphatic in our work in working in environmental and social sustainability. Therefore, we work in great alliance with the Climate Fund to obtain resources, and we were able to approve the Resilient Construction Program in order to help in the reconstruction of infrastructure, roads, mitigating floods, and building dams in the dry corridor in Central America to generate water for human consumption and for irrigation purposes. Governors, directors, officers, I'd like to share with you certain data that reflect the contribution of this bank. And for me, it is half of the road of my administration. So I'd like to share data that I find very interesting. No more than 300 people in the team of CABE. We have delivered 68 technical cooperation projects for pre-feasibility and feasibility studies for different projects. We have developed 12 road infrastructure projects, 4 for water and sanitation, 6 energy projects that have shown the importance of CABE's role in the Central American region. To end 2022, we hope to have to deliver 189 projects of social development for an estimated value of more than $3.4 billion. We hope to see the impact of these operations, and I'd like to mention that we estimate that this has generated about 384,000 employments, from which 3,000 are for women. In health, very important, we have benefited more than 400,000 patients in addition to people with water and sanitation. Dear governors and directors of CABE, we have achieved the 8th capital increment, going from 5 billion to 7 billion in the midst of a crisis. And this is not a small achievement. So thank you very much for demonstrating your support in the midst of a crisis. We have been able to consolidate our AA status and stable perspective still in the midst of a global crisis. For these achievements and the economic impact that this bank generates for our region, it's necessary to continue advancing in this road to set a direction of how we take this bank to satisfy the needs of the Central American region without requesting beyond our borders. We can definitely advance in this road. Governors, I'd like to take this opportunity to exhort you to instruct our board of directors and our administration to take those steps to delineate the roadmap of a strategy for the achievement of a new capital increase in order to continue increasing the size of operations and reducing the cost with which this development is funded. Not immediately, but in the future. CABE has reached 60 years of existing, and we have promoted in reforms that have changed paradigms in the institutions. For example, we have implemented an information access policy supported by the Board of Governors and Board of Directors. We have also adopted an environmental and social strategy which forces us to be much more responsible in gender and environmental issues. We've decided to exclude and fund dirty energy such as carbon. We have open representation offices in the Republic of China, Taiwan, in Dominican Republic, and very soon in the Republic of Korea, in Argentina, and Spain. Governors, I hope you can see the essence of our corporate governance and not to focus on issues that we have already addressed in the past. CABE is a bank at the service of the Central American region, and we must understand that the real role of this bank are the loans for development projects that our region needs so much. 2020 brought a lot of sadness and many losses of life. And I'd like to take advantage of reminding the loss of the director of Nicaragua, Mr. Navarrete, and the former executive vice president, Mr. Jaime Chavez, that left us during this crisis, which reflects a year that it was a year of many losses. Specifically, I suffered COVID-19. I lost my father in 2020. Nonetheless, we have to recover. And as I learn to walk, I think it's in 4 months, we have to learn to walk again. Kabay lost many colleagues, fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters, but we cannot stop, and we have to look in the future. Korea very gently is supporting us in the management of Apia Park for vaccine projects and not to depend of the manufacturing of these valuable inputs from abroad. We need to be capable of being aware and sufficient to provide and for the health of our people. We have also launched the capital fund for Kabay of $1 billion, where we want to attract Korean investors to invest in capital and companies in Central America. We want to thank Mexico for the openness to work in their capital market for sovereign issuances with Kabay and to take advantage of the good reputation that we have in Kabay. I want to thank the Minister of Finance and our governors for the initiative of the debt market, regional debt market that we will launch in Panama. We believe it has a potential of $20 billion, and therefore Central America will be able to have easier access to capital markets without having to take a plane farther than Panama. I hope that we can continue advancing with this support. Governors in this role, Kabay is changing, and we would like to continue transforming this bank that after 61 years requires so many transformations. I would also like to think that we broke a historic barrier. For the first time, we had a vice president woman, so we did not only finance change, but we have lived the change. So without any further, thank you very much. We thank President Mossi for his relevant message. Continuing with the inauguration program and to know the activities and objectives, we now have the President of the Board of Governors of Kabay, Mr. Luis Mata, Secretary of State in the Office of Finance and Head Governor for the Republic of Honduras. Yes, good morning to everyone. Mr. President of the Republic, Mr. Juan Orlando Hernandez Alvarado, Governors, Executive President of Kabay, Dr. Dante Mossi, Directors, Executive Officers of Kabay, friends of the media. It is an honor for me to meet with you today in order to hold the 61st Ordinary Meeting of the Board of Governors of Kabay. Very thankful of being part of the team and part of discussing the appropriate use of public finance and the management of financial resources in favor of the well-being of our populations. On behalf of the Honduran people, to thank for all the support that we have received from a strategic partner such as Kabay in the different challenges that we have had to face. As we all know, in 2020, we suffered the devastating effects of COVID-19 in 2020, leaving great repercussions in our country. In the case of Honduras, at the end of this year, there was a double impact with the pass of our national territory of hurricanes Eta and Iota that worsened even further the conditions of the living conditions of thousands of Honduran families. However, the granting of resources through soft credits, technical assistance, grants, and other actions conducted allowed us to develop to a large extent the strategies implemented to develop the contention, detection, treatment, and vaccination against COVID-19. Likewise, to face the effects of the tropical phenomenon Eta and Iota that hit intensely the Sula Valley, the producing area of the country, causing greater expenses in reconstruction, social compensation, and the rehabilitation of the families affected by these disasters. In this sense, CABE has supported us with a rapid response in the granting of fundings to respond to the sanitary emergency, acquiring vaccines against COVID-19, the donation of test kits, medical inputs, and the resources to address or to respond to the emergency and economic reactivation. As a result, the improvement of the income of the population that today finds itself in a very vulnerable situation, injecting resources to the financial system as well as macro measures in contingency lines for the Central Bank of Honduras, among others. This has represented in 2020 and 2021 that CABE has approved for the Republic of Honduras about $1.5 billion, which represents approximately 5.8% of our nominal GDP. As a result of all the actions that have been undertaken with the support of the multilateral banks and especially of Central American Bank for Economic Integration, we see signs of recovery that in the recent months of this year, we have seen favorable behavior of the economy. From the Ministry of Finance, we have made great efforts in order to promote a responsible and orderly management of public finances, which has allowed us to maintain our credit ratings for country risk, influenced namely by the compliance of the fiscal responsibility law. We hope to continue having the support of the bank as our ally and main regional financial arm. It's necessary to continue with this facilitation of resources since it is now that we need more from this, with the purpose of continuing responding to the emergency and with the sustainable reconstruction of the country and to achieve economic and inclusive reactivation. I would like to conclude by thanking CABE and especially Dr. Mossi and the directors for the commitment and expeditiousness demonstrated in these difficult times with our countries. I just have to say thank you very much and God bless you. Thank you to the President Governor of the Board of Governors. To conclude with this short inaugural act, I'd like to mention that the Republic of Honduras is not only one of the founding member countries of CABE and the country that holds the headquarters of this bank, but also one of the beneficiary countries of the investment programs of this institution, which aim at the reduction of poverty and social differences. In this sense, I recognize His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Honduras, Mr. Juan Orlando Hernandez, with his remarks. Good morning to all of you. Members of the Board of Governors, members of the Board of Directors, President Mossi, officers and employees, special guests. Please feel at home. Welcome to Honduras. I know this is a very important work day, but the welcome would not be complete from the people of Honduras to each one of you without inviting you to also leave a space to know a bit of Honduras. President, if you want to take them to our Air Force is ready for this. If you wish to take them to Copan Ruins, likewise, if you want to visit the Plátano River Reserve also. And if it's not today, in the future, please feel at home. Being here in this 61st Board of Governors at a time when humanity is facing very difficult and unprecedented moments due to the pandemic, changes lives in a dramatic manner for those of us who have suffered this disease and survived, but also for the population in general It's a very difficult situation, not only economically, but also socially speaking. Therefore, it should lead us to reflect in terms of joining efforts more than ever in order to face the consequences of the pandemic. Unfortunately, we see that this pandemic will last more than what had been predicted because the virus continues mutating. This global reality forces us as governors and citizens to make our best effort and endeavor to respond to these difficulties and to build solutions that will allow us in the short and medium term to minimize, and why not to say, stop the crisis. And allow me to stop a minute here. I would aspire that CABE, with its presence worldwide, can become the spearhead of our region to avoid going through what we passed, seeking vaccines. It's clear by the scientific community already that until the last person is not vaccinated in the world, the virus will continue mutating and nobody will be safe. Therefore, together we have a very large and strong space in the international community. Therefore, in the line mentioned by President Morsi, Honduras is asking you that the bank, with our diplomatic representatives in each country, is the one that seeks this solution for humanity, and not to continue in the competition where the richest countries take over the vaccines, and although we might have the money, we cannot purchase them. So until the last person is not vaccinated, nobody will be safe. Therefore, as we say in my village, you have this, we commend you this, and a reflection, which is not just an assumption, but it's a fact, scientifically proven. As government, we have also faced, I would say, the time of the biggest challenges in our country. In addition to the insecurity crisis that we lived some years ago, this pandemic, and last year, 2 storms in less than 2 weeks that hit us even harder than Hurricane Mitch. And in this sense, it is proven that Honduras and part of the Central American region, according to the preliminary reports, and as a result of assessing what happened last year, we became the region of the world with the greatest affectation due to climate change. This past year and this present year, we see torrential storms that are destroying. But in 2014, 15, and 16, we saw years where we had drought. So if it's not drought, it's a torrential and destructive rains. So in this sense, I would like to take advantage of this situation to inform you that we have requested the support of CABE to build in the country that is more affected by climate change, to build a defense and protection system to respond to floods, to the lack of water for human consumption, and also to take full advantage to irrigate in an intelligent manner and to create a more productive and sustainable production system. This is a system of 16 dams. CABE is funding the studies, and this leads to the protection of watershed. And this is not something that we made up overnight. No, this is a result of seeing the impact that we had in years, and CABE has participated in what we call the Alliance for the Honduran Dry Corridors. In the indiscussable success, 35,000 families that lived in extreme poverty were taught to value water production by caring for the water basins, dripping irrigation systems, best practices, and now they're out of poverty and are businessmen to produce for national consumption and also for exports at the regional level. This is what we want to do in Honduras and aspire to continue helping us in this protection system in the country, as we have already seen with these dams in Dominican Republic and in Cuba. But I'd also like you to feel confident that when we request support from CABE, it's because we also have a sound economy. Despite the fall of the level of economic activity, Honduras also was struck by the pandemic and the storms, but we have maintained our credit rating, which is historic and is the highest since 2017, thanks to discipline, prudence, and I would also say aggressiveness at some times, but being quite responsible with public finance. The fiscal and macroeconomic soundness demonstrated in recent years and the prudent and responsible management of the crisis we face today has allowed us to achieve and maintain the credit risk ratings of country risk with Moody's B1, Standard & Poor's BB minus, both with stable perspective despite the pandemic and two highly destructive storms. Likewise, we have been able to maintain the economic program the government has, with the IMF representing a support of this important organization in the management of the resources of the government management. As a country, to have the support of these risk rating agencies and these organizations is a message of economic stability at the international level, which creates a favorable and enabling climate for investment, economic growth, and employment generation. All this translates in better living conditions for the Honduran families. And here, I think it's worthwhile to stop a minute because it's important also to ask the accompaniment of the bank to lead our people to understand why it is important to maintain these sound macroeconomic indices, because crisis as this one in crisis as these, it allows us the space to react. Otherwise, if people do not understand this, anyone can make a festival of public finances, and then in a moment of crisis, it does not find a way to solve solutions. And I mention this because I am leaving very soon in November. My government is ending, and I hope that the incoming government will maintain this situation for Honduras. We were saying it's like keeping fit and eating well every day to resist any thing and keep healthy. In this historic moment that we live as a nation, the Central American Bank, our bank, I dare to say, because it has supported the bank in seeking other members, not since I became president of Republic, but even before. And now I feel a bank that is close to us, that provides responses. But before, also governors and directors, I will not deny I was a harsh critic of the bank. But now, due to this closeness and this new reality, I can proudly go and talk with my colleagues and promote this closeness with the bank. I am not a CABE officer, but I see him as one because it's our bank. You can always count on me. Also, very briefly, and allow me to mention some examples. Hondurans have been waiting for decades for an integral solution to avoid droughts and floods, and that system of dams is key, as I have told President Mossi and Catherine, our director, and I tell now the governors. And I believe that this example will not only be valid for Honduras, Nicaragua, El Salvador, and Guatemala are also highly affected by the climate change. Therefore, we make available this experience of the dry corridor, which is what we're trying to extrapolate throughout the country. CABE has also supporting us in the delivery of houses for people who lost everything or need to be relocated, social housing, and also bonds or cash transfers so that these people have a way to start their life. Another structural change that we're working together with the bank are the reforms for the transformation of the electric sector of the country. Thank you to the Board of Directors for your support. We are working together with National Congress, despite we now have a political environment because we started with the election campaign. We agree with the most representative political forces in Congress that this is good for Honduras, and we are already working this with the President of Congress. Please believe, you can trust on this, Mr. President. Also, institutional strengthening of our democracy is important, and CABE has always been present with the project Technify, which means technifying and making transparent the national registration system that at the same time produces the election list for this next election process, continuing with productive and social infrastructure focused in extreme poverty zones. We cannot but highlight the emblematic project in the Gulf of Fonseca as the bridge that will bring together land with the island of Amapala. And I'd like to direct specifically to our brothers from Nicaragua and El Salvador. We are neighbors in the south. We have a huge potential. We finished strengthening Puerto Cortes as a reference port in the Caribbean zone, and they are about to deliver the longest highway in Central America to join one ocean to another. But with this bridge reaching the island of Amapala, Nicaragua, and El Salvador immediately, as well as all the other countries, can take full advantage of these facilities to take your products to the Atlantic or use Puerto Cortes and bring products to the Pacific. The logistics system we've built in Honduras does not only favor Honduras, but all Central America. Therefore, Director for El Salvador, Governor, I was saying this is important for all of us. And Honduras is making available his logistics system of ports, airports, highway, the new migration system, the new customs system at the service of the region. But this bridge, President Morsi, as we have discussed, is key. And I already visited Amapala and went to the south and said I had talked with you and that you will support us in the funding of this. And given that we have a good country rating, we have money assured because we are good payers. Let me add something else. Now talking to non-regional members. If in Panama, a boat has to wait until up to 3.5 days at bay, 8 to pass from one ocean to another. Of course, we have to support the Panama Canal, and we have to support maritime cargo that at present it represents an increase, and I suppose my Panamanian friends can say this, and a cost of 300%. And this is strongly affecting all of us. Therefore, we want you to visualize the joining the Atlantic and Pacific and going through Honduras as strategic place for global maritime cargo. Now it's with a highway and with last generation terminals, but tomorrow it can be a railway or an interocean, and eventually the new technology that is being used between Abu Dhabi and Abu Dhabi. High velocity capsules. And at the end, this is good for everyone. As President Morsi says, talking about AAA, we have to say it. We have to propose this, not just to believe it, but to commit in doing this. Central America is about to take this step, and we have to start playing in the great leagues of world logistic. And it's great that we can do this hand in hand with Quebec. And we are also very proud of being the headquarters of the best credit rating in Latin America. But let's not stay there. We can continue advancing. You can count on us. Likewise, the integrationist spirit has not come to an end. This represents the essence of the creation of the bank, with the opening of offices in member countries, as has already been mentioned, but I'd like to highlight this. In Taiwan, the future opening of offices in Korea, Spain, Argentina. This is very important for the bank, but also for each one of the countries. All these accompanied with the best practices at the global level, which makes of Quebec the main institution that channels resources in the region, approximating $22 billion in the period 2010-2020, which represents approximately 6.7% of the nominal GDP of the SICA region. Of course, there's always way for improvement, and I'd like you to see the government perspective. In average, our governments last 4 years. In 4 years, when the procedures take too long, it's a huge challenge. Now, with the use of technology, we can make of these procedures swifter, more transparent, and it's a win-win situation. So the challenge I'm launching to Quebec, together with the member countries, we should increase the execution level of these resources. That is our part, because money available that is not executed has a cost. We're talking about $11 billion that represents 3% of the regional GDP. Therefore, our governments should respond in the same manner in a critical moment that requires economic reactivation. Health and vaccination also allows us to reactivate economy. We need resources with highly effective strategic plans. To conclude, I'd like to say that this year, that for Central America is the bicentenary, the 200 years of its independence and 60 years of institutional life of Quebec. We are improving and strengthening this institution at all levels. The Board of Governors that we have here today, let me repeat, feel with our full support to make the necessary decisions for the future of our institution. I know you must be saying, Juan Orlando, the president of Honduras, insists in saying our institution. Well, I feel part of the bank. And I think it's good for Honduras. I think it's good for the region and for all members. And you are making history today. Definitely, destiny has brought us here together and makes us face very important challenges in very crucial moments. But I am fully convinced that with your talent and capacity and with the will and spirit of service for our people, together with the pureness of purpose and having as a North working day to day to improve the living conditions of the people in our region, we will make it so that in the future, in the near future, we can look back and feel very proud of being a key part of this creating and transforming force that build more including and fit and just societies. And we can tell our children and the children of our children, yes, you can do it. And now it's your turn to do better as a generation. I repeat again, a cordial greeting on behalf of the Honduran people that make this huge sister nation that receives you today. I know you will work by, I also invite you to enjoy one of the most beautiful countries in the world, which is called Honduras. Take care and thank you. We thank the remarks and the presence of His Excellency, the President of Honduras, with which we finish the inauguration, and we will make a short break, and we will have the official photograph, and then in the backdrop of the event we hold today. For the rest of the Board of Governors, we wish you an excellent day. The first photo is here. We are taking the first photo here. We have the official photo. If we could please, again, for the press, we invite the governor for Nicaragua and El Salvador. Now you can go to the backdrop for the official photo.